Okay, so I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you about the inherent characterization about K-pop that my opening government failed to give you. But before I go to that, and also my argumentation, I'm going to tell you about the rebuttals for the opening opposition team. So the first things that they said, that catch up to us is actually about the demand of the society. About they said that those K-pop beauty standard actually come from the society itself, and the industry have to fulfill that, ladies and gentlemen. But actually they forgot to see that industry can be a pioneer to change and shape the public opinion in the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Because then we see how the United States actually try to not supporting fat shaming by fighting the demand for a skinny people, ladies and gentlemen, like we see from the Victoria's Secret fashion show runway. So before that, we see that there's a lot of models that actually have a very that actually is a zero size model, and also like they have fair skin, something like that. But then in the end of the day, right now we see them in the current status quo, they have like different races, different sexual preference, something like that, for the models actually to walk on the runway. So then they actually try to challenge the demand itself, ladies and gentlemen, and be a pioneer to change the public opinion in the end of the day. And then they said about how the K-pop actually another form of the Western beauty standard, ladies and gentlemen. But if we wanted to prerequisite the beauty standard itself, there have to be a narrative inside of the society that actually tells you that the K-pop is actually another form of the Western beauty standard, ladies and gentlemen. But in the current status quo, we don't see that actually happens, and that's why it is actually only the opinion of the opening opposition team, ladies and gentlemen, and not the fact. So moving on, I'm going to tell you about the about why it's K-pop, ladies and gentlemen. So we see K-pop is very different itself, ladies and gentlemen. It's very unique because then this K-pop, they have like fans, and then majority of their fans is very loyal and very fanatics. If they try to compare those fans with like fans of the Kim Kardashian, is very different, because then the Kim Kardashian fans is not as fanatic as the K-pop fans that we see in current status quo, ladies and gentlemen. Because those fans, if they really love their idols, then they're going to follow whatever their idols do, ladies and gentlemen, like what their fashion sense and also what products that they do, something like that. And then it becomes their role models, becomes of someone that actually they look up to, ladies and gentlemen. But sometimes these fans can be very illogical and very irrational. So that's what that's what the opening government forget to tell you, ladies and gentlemen. The fans itself can be very illogical and very irrational. That's why the feminist movement has to create a way to actually address those fans' point of view, ladies and gentlemen, because then their idols, currently their K-pop idols, they are a public figure, but they doesn't give you a diversification that needed to see in order for us to actually support them. So that's why we in the closing government aggressively oppose them, ladies and gentlemen. We oppose the K-pop industry value, the value that they actually bring, then actually take with them, ladies and gentlemen. We don't oppose the K-pop, but we oppose the value itself, ladies and gentlemen. You have to see the differences, because then we condemn and shame the K-pop industry for their value, because then they don't carry the feminist value that we wanted to see inside of those society, ladies and gentlemen, inside of those industry. Like if we compare that to the differences about the Hollywood and also the K-pop, because then this K-pop industry, they don't address the issues of the feminists, or maybe the value of the feminists inside of those industry, ladies and gentlemen. If we see from the Hollywood, they cater all the sex reference people, and then they cater people with different color, different races, and also something like that. And then in the end of the day, those industry actually actively supporting the feminist value, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we don't aggressively oppose to them, ladies and gentlemen. But if we see from the K-pop industry itself, they don't carry those kind of value inside of their industry, ladies and gentlemen. If we see from the idols, like you can't see idols that has maybe like a black color skin and something like that. We only see a fair skin idols with like mono eyelids, like single eyelids, something like that, because then they don't carry those diversification inside of them, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why we as the feminist movement has a moral obligation to actually support an industry that upholding and also glorifying the feminists in the end of the day. But because this K-pop industry cannot actually meet us in this diversity, that's why we cannot support them in the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. So because then it's not going to be a good example, as like what I said before, because then these idols, they are as a public figures, they have to give diversity to their fans, something like that, because then as you can see, their fans is not only in the Korean Korean society itself, and gentlemen, they have like fans outside of Korea, like maybe in Indonesia, that has different colors and something like that. And then they also have like fans maybe in Africa and something like that. They can't meet this kind of diversity that needed from the feminists to actually support them, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we very discriminate them, and then we try to oppose them. In order for them to not be opposed for this feminist movement, it's actually to try to create more diversity inside of their groups, maybe inside of their things, because then in the other day, even the idols that try to be different, they're going to be like criticize, something like that. It's not even healthy for the idols itself, so it's not going to be healthy also for their fans itself, ladies and gentlemen. That's why in the end of the day, we really try to condemn and shaming them, for them to know about how toxic they are, and trying to make them realize and change that in the end of the day. I think that's all for me. Thank you. 6:42.
Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, the one that will win this debate is actually who that can prove to us that how the feminist movement will be exist and sustain in the end of the day, and we don't get the harm because of the K-pop itself, that actually the one that actually has something wrong in this kind of industries, ladies and gentlemen. So first thing that we have to know, that we actually oppose aggressively because of the K-pop values is actually not trying to promote the feminist movement until right now, ladies and gentlemen. We can see at the current status quo, you say the K-pop, there are most of the people of most of the talent is just from the white race, for example. They not try to, for example, to make a diversification with, for example, the comparatively with the Western industries, because we know the Western industries is also promote the feminist movement. They actually also try to recruiting the people from the other race and also the other sex preference, for example. So that's why we okay with this kind of Western industries, and why the K-pop itself, the things that why we have to oppose in the current status quo. Ladies and gentlemen, the first of all, when they are stated about the people itself will try to use this kind of K-pop style as the alternative when they don't want to follow the Westerns in style, for example, we believe that is only the opinion from the opening opposition in the very first place. Why, ladies and gentlemen? Because we know when they want this stated about that kind of things, but in the current status quo, we can see there is no narrative about that kind of things that happen in the current status quo. We believe that, ladies and gentlemen, their statement can be stand when there is something narrative in the status quo and it acceptable by the society itself, but there is no narrative that happen in the current status quo. But in the fact, all of the people or fans itself is just trying to do whatever their role, their actors do in the current status quo, ladies and gentlemen. As I said before, as my first speaker stated before, we have to know about the characterization of the people that actually fans this kind of one of the fans in the K-pop itself. You know, ladies and gentlemen, they are actually a fanatic people. They actually a very they want to do everything what they actually do. They will do everything what their K-pop asks for them to do, ladies and gentlemen. So this is a very irrational things, and also they cannot think logically, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Can you see at the current status quo? We can see there are a lot of the people, of the fans of the K-pop itself, is just try to buy maybe a photo card, and then price is very expensive at the current status quo, right, ladies and gentlemen? Just only for the photo card itself, they actually buy maybe for 300,000 just only for that things, ladies and gentlemen. So this is, you can see how the big impact that was given by the K-pop industry itself, ladies and gentlemen. They have a big effect because of that inside of the K-pop itself, ladies and gentlemen. And also they are also stated about the demand and the supply, because K-pop is exists because there is a demand and so on and so forth. But ladies and gentlemen, the first thing that you have to know is when there is something demand from the society, and that is the wrong values at the current status quo, the K-pop is actually, as the industries, they actually have the liability in this kind of case. They have to challenge that demand to how we actually can fix the values in the end of the day, so that will not gonna be a behavior for the society in the end of the day. So we believe that, ladies and gentlemen, K-pop, this actually the industry is not doing that until right now, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why we have to oppose the values of the K-pop itself by the feminist movement itself, ladies and gentlemen. And also they are also stated about their people will think also reality. They will think if they are actually one of the fans K-pop, but they will always maybe get married with the Indonesian people. Yes, maybe they can marry with the Indonesian people, but ladies and gentlemen, they will also have the standard. Even they are Indonesian people, that they have to be people that use the Korean style, for example, to be their wife, for example. So that there is also will also impact the standardization about this kind of things, ladies and gentlemen. So, and also they also stated about the K-pop itself, because their K-pop is the profit oriented and so on and so forth. They say that the K-pop will keep doing that things because they will try to get the profit, and they try to, for example, control the market and so on and so forth. But ladies and gentlemen, we believe that when they actually change their values, not stuck in this kind of values, that very toxic values, and they don't want to diversification happen in the K-pop, ladies and gentlemen, it will give a harm for our society, right? So that's why the essence of the feminist movement is actually to move to change that kind of things, ladies and gentlemen. Because why we believe they also we don't try to blame the K-pop itself, we try to get the profit. But at the current status quo, Western industries is also exist, but they still also can get the benefit because of that things. Even they are actually, it's not like a K-pop, they don't they actually also promote the feminist movement, but still they still actually can get the profit because of that things, ladies and gentlemen. So in here, that we as the society have to know which one is good and which one is not. We have to control about the K-pop itself. If there is industries that is give a wrong impact to our society, so that's why we have to try to oppose that kind of things, so they will not give a bad impact for the current society itself, ladies and gentlemen. As I said before, there are a lot of people will be just try to do something that they actually cannot do. For example, they want to be skinny, for example, they want to have maybe a good body and so on and so forth, but they try to push themselves to just fulfill the standard because of the K-pop itself, ladies and gentlemen. And also they are also stated about the K-pop talent. The K-pop is not only about beautiful, but also the talent show and so on and so forth, and so they win the Grammy and so on and so forth. But ladies and gentlemen, we believe that the people is in the current status quo, they just try to follow the style itself, because the style is actually something that they easily to find to follow by the society itself, ladies and gentlemen. So even the K-pop is has a talent show and so on and so forth, but in the kind of case, they don't try to show the diversification is also can doing that, because they just only recruiting something that in the white race, for example, in the one style, and also they are just showing this kind of things in the current status quo. So that we believe that, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very toxic things that the current status quo in the K-pop itself, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why I'm very proud to propose. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
7 minutes 5 seconds. Thank you.